Hello,
Bonjour.
hello, bonjour. Today I'm speaking one-on-one with Mzahem AlSaloum, a Syrian who fled his country. You work as an analyst for UNIT, an organization that provides intelligence to help governments, intelligence agencies, and international body make strategic decisions. Thank you so much for joining us on Tandem TV. Thank you. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. It's nice to be with you.
Please excuse my English. I might not be very fluent, but I do my best. I do my best.
You're
I
doing
try.
great. You're doing great. Like way better than my French. So I'm sorry that I don't speak French.
Oh,
Despite
no,
I
it's
love the French language.
okay. You recently took part in the ELNET conference, which aims to strengthen ties between Israel, European countries, and others around the world. Why did you choose to participate? What was your objective?
Okay. So first thing I would like to mention that I'm the first Syrian who spoke on a main official stage for the EAPAC and the EPAC communities. And I'm proud of that. And I thank Elnet for giving me that opportunity. I decided to participate because I have a long record and long history of like defending the Jews and defending the Israelis. Even when it comes to crucial time, like when there were a lot of like people discussing or like having concerns over Israel and over the Jews, I was always there defending them. And I paid heavy price for that. I paid like once I paid the price by my whole life was destroyed. I paid price with like being like attacked with defamation campaigns, with misinformation campaigns, or even bullying campaigns by the Islamist and Muslim Brotherhood, online gangs. So I have a long history of being like a closer friend to the Jews all over the world and to the Israelis as well. But I have seen recently that because of the trauma of the 7th of October attack, which I understand very well because the 7th of October terrorist attack, it's one of the most horrible things we have ever seen since the Holocaust. And it was the most horrible attack we have seen against the Jews since like the Holocaust. Because of that trauma, I have seen Israel going through like a wrong path when it comes to its policy towards Syria. So I decided to participate as a good friend because the good friend only doesn't only stand by you when you fight. You know, the good friend also like stand by you when you do something wrong because of a trauma or because any hard time you go through. Like the good friend would come to you and will take you from your hand and lead you to the right path. So my aim was just like being the good friend and take the Israeli policy towards Europe and towards the Middle East to the right path to get it out of this mood, which it has happened because like of the trauma of the 7th of October terrorist attack.
Thank you. Ahmed al-Shara, better known as Abu Muhammad al-Julani, a former jihadist leader, is now the president of Syria, your country. He is trying to present himself as a statesman, a figure of order and reconstructions. As a Syrian who survived torture under the former regime, how do you feel seeing a former extremist militia leader rise to power and attempt to polish his image? Can this transformation really be believed?
Okay. So first thing I want to start with a small introduction. Within that small introduction, that my brother as well was tortured to death by a jihadi group, as well as I fought for a long time. I was a spokesman for one of the leading units, an anti-ISIL and Al-Qaïda, which was led by the US, France, and the UK against the terrorist organizations in Syria and in Iraq as well. So I played a key role without like asking for anything in exchange out of that belief. So I think this history and this background can give me kind of like a credibility when I answer this question, when I answer these types of questions about the new Syria, let's say. So I think right now, my own perspective, like as someone who has very good expertise when it comes to the jihadis and Islamist groups, that the new Syrian president, Mr. Ahmed al-Shara, is have a genuine and decent will and the intention to be moderate. I don't think it's a let's say a polishing picture, or like he's trying to take an advantage of a period and then he will change, because I can see right now by his way of like treating the geopolitical like challenges and the interior challenges of Syria, plus like his way of handling his international relations and regional relations. He's handling them in a way that is a very strategic, to a point that he has no space to go back or take any steps back. You know what I mean? So he's playing in a very, very strategic way and a strategic view, and out of a belief that if he wants to build like a great record as a as a as a as a as the first Syrian president after going like 2 generations of being like into one of the most horrible dictatorships in the history, he has to develop a peaceful and the like developed and a promising country that enjoys some prosperity. So he believes he can do that only when he's moderate. So coming out of this belief and coming out of these actions that we can see on the ground, on the situation inside Syria right now, you have multiple wings inside Syria itself. You have some wings which are, they were historic allies, such as some Alawite groups and some even Sunni Palestinian groups who were like, and there are some of them from the Druze and from the Kurds. These were historically like Iranian assets. So you have the alliance, the historic, the classic allies of Iran. On the other hand, you have ISIL and the extremist wing with the former Al-Qaïda and the extremist groups, which also Iran start opening kind of a communication lines with them on the ground. And you have the third option below, which is Mr. Ahmed al-Shara and his group into the current administration, who have the will, the understanding, and the intention to be moderate and to build the moderate country. But the third group, they have like kind of like a long list of challenges that takes them to walk through like a field of mines to survive with the country, with a stable, moderate country. So if we became the added pressure to the pressure that they already have because of the other challenges, that will weaken them and will empower the other two extremist wings, if you know what I mean. So my own perspective is that if we start collaborate with them and empower them, we will make them more powerful than the other extremist groups. So we all together can kind of like defeat the terrorist organizations. I'm not saying let's do that tomorrow, but we need to build a mechanism on a like 4 years. Within that mechanism, we take what we want from that strategy.
Okay. And last March, members of the Alawite community from which the Assad Trump came were massacred, and more recently, Jewish civilians were killed. Do you truly believe that someone like al-Julani, which such a jihadist past, can now unite Syria's minorities and represent a legitimate authority for them?
Okay. So let's start with the Alawite thing. What happened into the coastal provinces, the Alawite minority regions? When the Alawites left, like I have some friends of mine who were leading the convoys that has liberated Damascus and liberated Homs. So they were explaining to me, they were telling me our orders were too strict to a point that when the Alawite Assad loyalists were escaping Homs and Damascus, we had with them only the road, like we can see them. And they were like leaving these cities with a horror. That horror caused like big traffic jams. So they said we didn't need anything, only our Kalashnikovs and we shoot them and we will mass kill them. But our leadership gave us very, very strict orders that we don't touch any one of them. And then we had 3 months. Within these 3 months, Ahmed al-Shara, whom they call al-Jolani, he deployed to them the elite security forces to protect them from any revenge. What they have done, how did they pay back these Assad loyalist Alawites? They just start cooperating with Iran, and we have pieces of evidence right now. They started cooperating with Iran, the Iraqi Shiite militia groups, which is backed by Iran, and with Hezbollah, and with the PKK leadership, which is also share interests with Iran. And they planned a coup attempt. And how did they start this coup attempt? They started this coup attempt by burning alive the security forces who were deployed to protect them. And they start knocking the door of the Sunni families and mass kill them into their houses. They started that, they killed 104 out of those like elite security forces to protect them and the Sunnis. And then what we have had on the ground, we have had a lot of propaganda, a lot of speaking about thousands and everything. For your information,
Propaganda.
sorry? For your information, propaganda, a lot of propaganda, yeah. And this propaganda was backed by Iran, the SDF, and the far-right Israeli community, far-right extremists who don't understand the context. They were just pushed by trauma. Anyway, this is one of the models where you would see like a trauma might lead you to be in the same bed with your own enemy. Anyway, so we have had 14,000 armed men, unorganized armed men. They start attacking the coastal provinces because Syrians were scared that we will have the Assad regime is back. Despite that, despite the lack of capacity that the current administration have, they had to split their forces into two pieces, into two groups. Group number one was fighting against the Iranian-linked Assad loyalists, and the second group has to protect the civilians, the Alawite civilians, from these uncontrolled groups. Within these 14,000 uncontrolled groups, we have had 100 to 200 Alawite civilians killed. Again, killing one civilian would be like a horrific action and a non-ethical action. But these numbers and these details are showing you that these are not systematic. They were not like orders by al-Jolani and his government. It wasn't systematic. He tried, when it was systematic, he tried to protect them, but they didn't accept that. Our problem with these people right now, that each one of them, he was dealing with everyone inside Syria as gods. They were treating themselves, they had the right to be gods. Even the normal, like, police member of them, they were dealing with everyone in Syria as gods. Right now, we are telling them, let's overcome everything. We will not we will not hold you accountable. Let's build a country and let's be equal civilians. All of us equal civilians. And they don't accept that. They don't accept the fact that they are not gods anymore. And we are like 10-degree citizens. They want the situation to be as before. That is the situation. The systematic orders were to protect the Alawite civilians, even the ones who were involved with the Assad regime, but they did not accept that, and they led the situation to the horrific situation that we have seen recently. And by the way, the recent European Union report, which has been released 2, 3, or 4 days ago, it's supporting what I'm saying, because again, we have actionable pieces of intelligence, pieces of evidence that is proving each point that I have told you.
Yeah. From your work with UMIT, you're directly involved with the community on the ground. What are your hopes or concerns when it comes to the future of Syria-Israel relations? Do you see a real possibility for dialogue, or is the divide still too deep to overcome?
The situation in Syria is super complicated, to be honest with you. So I worked on a lot of conflict zones, before the Assad regime fallen, I was always saying like you can put Syria as the fifth most complicated conflict in the world. I was ranking, for example, like Yemen, Mali, like Sahel countries, conflicts are more complicated. And then you have then Libya, then like you have at some point Sudan, then you have Syria. But after the Assad regime fallen, surprisingly, Syria has become the most complicated conflict in the world. And this is out of my expertise, you know? So right now, people feel people were kind of like super scared, hopeless about the future and about the complications that exist about the future. But after the recent historic visit for President Trump to the Middle East and his surprising announcement about like start building a mechanism to lift sanctions over Syria, plus the recent European and UK like very positive policy towards Syria by lifting sanctions and handling the Syrian file in a very good way. And this is surprising, by the way. This is for the first time maybe since, let's say, 150 years, 120 years, we see Europe and UK have a very good, very well-directed policy towards the Middle East, which is a very positive sign, you know? So that gives people a lot of hope. The situation on the ground, the country is completely exhausted. The people are like, the poverty is in every house. Like we have a super poverty situation on the ground. However, like again, the recent Western actions are giving people hope. And the good thing about Syrians, they have this reputation that they have a very good workforce. They are very good human resources. So they are always eager to build, which will give us the hope that everyone is willing to build the country in a very positive way. However, we still have a lot of challenges. Some of these challenges, you have the extremist organizations inside. Israel doesn't accept the fact that the new Syria is a peaceful country and they don't want to have conflict with you, but like the current government, they don't understand that and they keep attacking the country, which is causing embarrassment even to the moderate people like us. They put us in a very bad corner, as well as many other interior challenges, which will take long time to explain.
Thank you so much for this powerful and enriching exchange. It's very, very interesting. I truly appreciate your openness and thank you, Mzahem.
You're
And
welcome.
alors, en français maintenant, pour
Okay.
tous nos téléspectateurs de Tandem TV, à vous qui nous avez regardé, écouté, n'hésitez pas à laisser vos commentaires et à vous abonner à Tandem TV en cliquant sous la cloche sur cette vidéo. Alors, thank you so much.
Of course,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome. Have a nice day. Thank you. Have a great day. And it's always like a pleasure to be with you. Thank you, Sophie. And bonne journée.